Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Cybernetics. My name is Martha and I'm very excited, very pleased to be here with you, as you can see, virtually, okay? Today I'm going to be walking you through a time of introspection, a time where we get to take a closer look at ourselves inwardly and ask a few questions of ourselves, yeah? Okay, we'll be doing that amongst many things. We'll also be looking at the mind and the power that the mind avails, and also the power that is available to us through our minds, okay? We'll be looking at the concept of cybernetics. It sounds like a big word, but I'll be breaking that down and you'll understand what that is all about. Also, we'll be looking at the psychology of the self-image and how the self-image impacts the quality of life that we live as individuals. Okay, all right. We'll also be taking a look at limitations, certain limitations that we may have imposed upon ourselves unconsciously, ignorantly, without even knowing, and the effect that these limitations have had on us, and how some of these limitations have actually hindered us from living the best versions of our lives. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to do two things only, okay? If you can just oblige me to do two things, I'll be super happy. The first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to please be open, all right? And by that I mean be open to new ideas, new ways of thinking, new possibilities, okay? New mindsets, new concepts. And the second thing I'm going to ask you to do is to be honest, all right? So as we'll be discussing, some things might pop on your radar that you probably haven't seen it that way before. You didn't think of it in that way. I'm going to ask you, instead of dismissing, fighting, or ignoring it, that you open up yourself to it and see where it will take you to. Okay, can you do that? All right, if you do that, I'll be very happy, okay? And then we'll find out that everything we're doing is not in vain, because any other thing would be a limitation, okay? If we fight openness and fight honesty, that in itself is a limitation. Right, so if you're ready, let's get moving. So I have the slides. If you have it, that's fine. If you don't, that's also fine. We're going to look at cybernetics, the concept of cybernetics. It's a Greek word, and it was first heard of from the late Dr. Maxwell Martz, okay? If you have seen his book, he wrote a very exciting book called Cybernetics. Now, if you can get your hands on this book, I would encourage you to read it from beginning to the end. It would open up your mind to so many amazing things. All right, so he is the author and founder of Cybernetics. But really, what does it mean? From the Greek translation, literally, it means a helmsman steering his ship to port. And if you look at the slides, that's what I have, a captain there, and he's steering his ship to port. That's literally what it means. Okay, but for those of you that like definitions, I'm going to have a definition here that I'd like to read and share with you. So cybernetics is the science of control and communication. The act of cybernetics is to maintain a definite course of action that will not deviate from the course that has been established. So for instance, this is point A and this is point B, your destination. You're trying to get from here to here. Now, what cybernetic does is it takes you from this point and it guarantees that you reach point B. Now, if somewhere along the line you're going, you start from point A and you deviate, cybernetics will bring you back on course, guarantee that you reach the expected destination, which is point B. So you see, it's a control mechanism. It's a control system that ensures you arrive at your expected destination. That's all it is. To further buttress this point, I'm gonna give another example, okay? Let's think of a plane and a pilot. Pilots fly planes, right? And we know as they sit in the cockpit, there's also something called the autopilot. Now, the autopilot is the control system, the control mechanism that guarantees that the plane leaving from this point gets to that point. For instance, our plane is flying from Sokoto to Warri, okay? So we start off from Sokoto, and mid-air, the plane begins to experience turbulence and it goes off course. It's going off course. Now, the autopilot in the plane is the control system that guarantees that it gets back on course to ensure that it arrives at its expected destination, which is Warri, okay? So that's what cybernetic is. It guarantees that you stay on course, you do not deviate, and even if you do deviate, it brings you right back on course to make sure that you arrive at your expected destination. So that's simple. It's a control mechanism. So I've said all that to say this. Every human being on planet Earth has a cybernetic that either works for you or against you. I'll say that again. Every human being, every one of us has a cybernetic that works either for you or against you. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, what is this cybernetic? Okay, let's introduce ourselves to that. Voila! The self-image is the psycho-cybernetics that controls the human beings, okay? So the self-image is the mental cybernetics that controls the life of the human being. Yeah, that's it. It's the control system that is embedded deep in each of us as a human being and controls our lives. Self-image, it's that powerful. I want to say very quickly that one of the most important discoveries of modern times is the discovery of this self-image. You know, it's something that when you understand what it is and what it can do and how you can use it to serve you, you'll find that your life will just take a whole new dimension. The power, it's not just the power, it's the understanding of what it does, and then you using it to serve you to achieve whatever it is that you want to attain in your life. It's all embedded in the self-image, the psycho-cybernetic, the human control mechanism, the human control system that guarantees that an expected outcome is achieved in your life. Self-image. Now, everyone has a self-image, okay? Daddy, mommy, little boy, everyone, chief, cook, cleaner, we all have a self-image. It's a mental picture that we carry around within us. I mean, we go around, we carry it, whether you know it or not. Some people it's very detailed, they understand completely how they are. Some people it's just a fuzzy image. But the truth is that we all have an image, a mental picture that we carry around of the sort of person that we consider ourselves to be. Now, the self-image is built up from our own beliefs about who we are. So take note of the word belief, because you see, your belief is involved. So it comes, but you give your belief. You give your acceptance to it. And then you consider, this is who I am. Most often, these beliefs were unconsciously formed from our past experiences without even our awareness, without our consciousness. Some of these beliefs that we attribute and consider and say, oh, this is me, we didn't even know when they were being formed. Isn't that interesting? Okay, let's go a little bit deeper and break down a bit more. So if you have the slides, I have some points I listed out. I'm just going to read them and just go through them very quickly. So your self-image is your perception of yourself. When you think of the word perception, what comes to mind? Okay, maybe the way you see yourself, your appearance. Some people might say, okay, I perceive myself, I'm a very stylish person, or I'm a very strict person, or I'm a very tidy person. So you see, it reflects in your appearance and how you see yourself, how you act, how you carry yourself. That is your self-perception. That is your self-image that is speaking. It's also the non-physical image that you have of yourself. Now, I'll give you an example. here is a portrait of me. It's a physical representation of what I look like. So it's a capture of who I am, the essence of me physically. So when you look at my picture, this physical picture, what you see is what I am. So if you haven't seen me before, when you look at my picture, you say, oh, okay, this is how her eyes are. This is the color of her hair. This is the way her body structure is. This is what she looks like physically. The same way, the self-image is the non-physical image, this non-physical capture, the essence of you non-physically. You see, I say a person does not go beyond the image he has of himself. So you might begin to consider a few things. Your self-image. Now, it also represents your self-worth. Your self-image is also what you believe to be true of yourself. Now, take note of the word believe again, I said, okay? Because it's very important when you give your concept to a thing, your stamp of approval. Okay, yes, this is me. We're going to find out how self-images are formed. We're going to go into that a little bit more. But suffice to say that the self-image impacts your outlook on life. It impacts your happiness, the quality of life you live. It is determined by the self-image you have. You see, a person does not go beyond the image that he has of himself. You can't go beyond who you are. This is you on the inside. And you see, it's going to reflect on the quality of life. It's going to reflect on the reality that you experience real time here. So whatever's going on the inside is being reflected in reality. It's the experience that you go through. It's what we see on the outside. So we see how important the self-image is. And finally, I'm going to say that the self-image is stored in the subconscious mind. Okay? The subconscious mind. That's where it lives. That's where it dwells. That's where it abides. The subconscious mind. Are we getting to understand a little bit more about how complex we are as human beings and how things are being shaped in us? All right, I'm going to ask you, if I had to ask you, what is your definition of a man? What would you say? Once again, if the slides are up, I have the question, what is man? If I ask you to write down in maybe 2 sentences, your definition of man. Who is man? What is man? What would you say? Actually, I'd like you to do that. Just think about it. What is man? What is man? What is your concept of who a human being is? Just take a note and just write it down quickly, if you will. And while you're doing that, I would just want to say that, you see, understanding, why I'm asking this is because understanding is key. It fuels knowledge, okay? And when you understand the purpose of a thing, you're better able to value it, you're better able to use it, and you'll better enjoy the benefits of it fully. So for instance, I'm holding a microphone and I don't know what it is. I don't know the purpose of the microphone. I would misuse it because I don't know what it's for. I'd probably use it as a bat, use it as a pistol, use it for anything but what its purpose is for. But if I have the understanding, if the light shines on me and I get the understanding that, oh, a microphone, if I look at the knob underneath it, I can click it on, and what it does, it amplifies my voice and everybody can hear it from wherever they are. I'll be able to appreciate it, and I'll be able to I'll be able to benefit from what it can serve me. What it can do for me. All right, so that's what understanding does. Now I'm going to have my own definition. If you have your definition of what a man is, that's fine. Now I'll share something that I saw. Here's a definition of man. It says, the only thing about a man that is a man is his mind. Everything else you can find in a pig or a horse. I'll read it again, just in case you didn't get it. The only thing about a man that is a man is his mind. Everything else you can find in a pig or a horse. The first time I heard that, I heard it from Napoleon Hill, and I said to myself, ooh, I don't like this. Ooh. I just found it too much, too heavy, too harsh. And everything in me wanted to just fight, rebel, just shut it out. But I did what I said to you. I said, okay, you know what? Take a deep breath and open up yourself and just see if this can take you anywhere, if there's anything you can get from this. So what I did was I began to think about it. I said, okay, let me see. And as I did, I realized that there were some nuggets of truth in this statement. As harsh as it sounded, but it's actually true, because when you think about it, the animal and the animal kingdom, they're literally the same thing. I mean, they have eyes, we have eyes. We have nose, they have a sense of smell. We have ears, they hear. I mean, right down to the mouth. We have the reproductive system, the same thing. They have the digestive system. So what really is the difference? In fact, as I began to think a bit more, they have legs, they have feet. There are even animals that are stronger than us, faster, bigger. So what is that distinction? What is the major thing that separates us, that differentiates us from the animal kingdom? And I said, okay, it is really the thing between our ears. It's the mind. You see, man is all mind. That's what the slide says. Man is all mind. That's really what you are. That's what I am. And if we can understand this concept, take a minute to just think that that's really that's all we are, the mind. And we can understand, you see, it's the mind that separates the successful from the unsuccessful. The quality of thoughts in his mind, what's going on in his mind, that's what separates the successful man from the unsuccessful man. Nothing else, because we have everything else, but it's the quality of his mind. The quality of thoughts, what's going on in his mind. So the mind is very important, and that's really who you are. So you begin to ask yourself, how much of my mind am I aware of? Am I taking advantage of? Am I using or allowing it to actually serve me to be able to get what I want from life? Let's go a bit further. Here's a definition of the mind. And it says the mind is a set of cognitive faculties, including consciousness, imagination, perception, thinking, judgment, language, memory, all housed in the brain. And I just like to quickly add too. I just like to add this. Oh, where is that? Okay, the mind is a powerhouse, the engine room where ideas are formed and creativity birthed. Man is all mind. It is the mind of a man that makes him superior to animals. The mind is where decisions are made and intentions concluded. It is a tool given to create. The mind is where creation begins. With the power of the mind, we create the lives that we want to live. The mind is an instrument here to serve the man. I just like to point out that every time there's a definition, most times actually when there's a definition, you see a definition of the mind, it's usually really the conscious mind that they're describing, okay? But for the purpose of this discussion, we're going to take a look at two parts of the mind, the conscious and the subconscious mind. So we're going to list out the characteristics and look at some of the major differences. Now let's look at the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is a storehouse responsible for storing and retrieving data. So it's like a big storehouse, okay? It's a warehouse. It's huge. And all it does is just store and retrieve, store and retrieve, store and retrieve. So it accepts all data. It does not have the ability to reject any data. It can't say, oh no, I'm not taking this. All it does is store and retrieve. And you see, that's where that popular phrase that says jargon in, jargon out, jargon in, yeah. Okay, that's the subconscious mind for you. It's void of creativity and does not have the ability to reason. There's no complicated issue. It just stores and retrieves. Jargon in, jargon out. And it does not involve your awareness. So you can actually be sleeping and your subconscious mind is still working. It's still picking up things from your environment. That's why sometimes they say when you're sleeping, be careful of what is playing in the background. The subconscious mind is just constantly feeding on everything around you and just garbage in, garbage out, taking it all in. And finally, the subconscious mind is home to the self-image. That's where the self-image lives, the subconscious mind. All right? So now let's look at the conscious mind. The conscious mind, on the other hand, involves your awareness. So you have to be awake to be able to use your conscious mind. You see, you have to be conscious. Now, the five senses are connected to our conscious mind. So the taste, smell, touch, all the five senses, they're connected. It's the conscious mind that makes them effective. Now, also the conscious mind has the ability to accept and reject data in making choice. So it can actually accept something. It can say, oh, no, I don't want to think this. It can reject it. It's not obliged to just take on every information. So you see, the conscious mind has that ability to check, reject, check, reject, check, reject. And so that's really the major difference, whereas the subconscious mind doesn't have that. So you say in all this that, oh wow, the subconscious mind doesn't really do much. All it does is store, retrieve. But let me just put it to you that the total mind is actually 95% subconscious and 5% conscious mind. Yeah, the total mind is 95. So you do the math. You figure out the subconscious mind is actually bigger than you imagine. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is a board demonstration introducing the self-image. All right, okay, I'm going to do a board demonstration. Actually, what I'm going to do is to walk you through this thing on the chart so we can actually visually see it for those of you who are visual learners. And then I'm also going to do a demonstration between an adult mind and an infant mind. So I'll just turn this way. And you'll get to see the board here. I want you to be able to see. Okay, I think, yeah. Let's see if this is working. Okay, so we have this. I'll bring it a little closer. Okay. All right, so what we have here is the conscious mind. Okay, let's see if I can bring it a little bit. Yeah, we have the conscious mind that we spoke of earlier. And remember we said the conscious mind. There's a reason I'm explaining all this for you, okay? So if you just follow me, all right? Try not to be distracted. Just follow me, all right? There's a reason I'm trying to explain all this. So the conscious mind, we said this is the conscious mind, and it's connected to the five senses. This is where the five senses operate. We also said the conscious mind, it has the ability to make choices. We said it can accept and reject data. So if something is coming in and it doesn't want to think it, it rejects it. It can also accept it and say, yes, this is what I want to think about. It is the center of creativity. This is where ideas, inspiration, all here is the conscious mind. This is where this happens. Creativity is birthed right here in the conscious mind. Also, the conscious mind has the ability to reason. This is where our logic, intelligence, this is all here in the conscious mind, okay? Do we understand that? Now, let's move to the next one. Now, this is the subconscious mind. This is just my little drawing, a visual representation, so that those of you who are visual learners, I think this might just help. So here's the subconscious mind, okay? Now, remember we said it cannot reason. It can't reason, so it just takes all information. It's a storehouse. It stores and retrieves data. Everything coming in, it just stores it, retrieves it when necessary. It stores it, retrieves it. Jargon in, jargon out. All right? It accepts all data. It does not have the ability to reject anything. And of course, there's no creativity found in the subconscious mind. And if you see, I have a little house here I drew. It's home to the self-image. Okay? Very important. So this is a demonstration of what it was I was talking about earlier. Now I'm going to walk you through an adult's mind and an infant mind. So we'll see the major difference and see where certain things how certain things evolve. Okay, so here we have an adult mind. Oops, can we see that? All right, I just want to make sure you're seeing them. Here's the adult mind. Now, in the adult mind, we said, okay, that we have the conscious mind and we have the subconscious mind in an adult mind. And the conscious mind, remember all the things we said? It has the ability to reason. It can take in information. It can reject it. It's where the creativity is. It's connected to the five senses: the taste, touch, sight, sound, smell. All this is right here in the conscious mind. And of course, our subconscious mind is home to our feelings, habits, those kind of things. This is where the subconscious mind is. Now, in the infant mind, it's pretty much the same thing. The only difference is that when we are born and we come into this world as infants, our conscious faculties are not developed. That's why this place is empty. That's why I left this place empty. See, we don't have that conscious, our conscious faculties are not developed, so we don't have that ability to reject or do all the things that the conscious mind can. So what happens is that all the external information from outside, all the environmental displays of things that happen to you, what happens? It goes straight into the subconscious mind. Everything from outside, external influences, goes straight in here. I remember we said the subconscious mind doesn't have a filter, so it just takes in everything. So everything that's happening on the outside, the good, the evil, the bad, it's going straight where? Into the subconscious mind. So take a minute and just think about that, okay? That's why children, they absorb things so easily. There's nothing to resist it. There's no filter. It goes straight to the subconscious mind. You find out a child that lives in a home that has 4 languages being spoken. That same child can pick up all those languages easily. Why? Because there's nothing to hold it back. The conscious faculties aren't really developed, so it just takes everything, absorbs everything. That's what the subconscious mind, it's like a sponge. It takes in every single thing without any filter. So you get to ask yourself, okay, the things that happened to me in my early childhood and my experiences, the things that happened to you, the kind of schools that you went to in your earlier years, the culture, the tradition, the kind of parents you had, the upbringing you had, the culture, the religion, all these things add to your experience. Goes straight into where? The subconscious mind. And you know what happens? It begins to form and mold you. All these external experiences begin to form and mold you. But right here is your mind. It begins to form and mold you. And you know what happens after a while? It begins to form a pattern. Repetition of the same experiences begin to form a pattern. And you see that pattern, what happens is it becomes a mindset, it becomes a habit, it becomes a behavior, it becomes a programming that lives and abides here. And you know what does eventually? You begin to believe it. When something is repeated over and over again, you begin to believe it. That's just human nature. You begin to believe that this is true. When you hear something over and over, you begin to believe that this is true. And as you begin to believe that this is true, eventually you begin to see this as you. And then the self-image is birthed. And then, of course, the cybernetic kicks off. That's how it's formed. This is how the self-image is created. All right? So, and remember I said, you see, the self-image is very powerful because you can't go beyond the image that you have of yourself. This is how it all forms. This is where it happens. And I'm going to ask you now to just take some time to think about certain limitations that you know have not served you. Limiting beliefs that you've had that up until now you know that it hasn't served you. You know they're not serving you, and you know it will not help you get to the next level in your life. I want you to think about these behaviors right now, these beliefs that you've held on to. And remember I said this is a time of introspection, so it's between you and you. Nobody else. You just think about it yourself. You're trying to move forward. You're trying to work out your future. You want to advance, and whatever will help you to advance, you want to accept it. Okay. So now that we've seen how the self-image is formed, and we know that a person does not go beyond his image of himself. So whatever image that you have inside you, And some of them, you understand where some of these limitations, the beliefs have come. We want to begin to address it. And you might say, okay, no, well, this is the way I've always, and it might actually be not easy initially the first time. You might, as you're thinking about it, you might want to just fight it. You might want to suppress it, dismiss it. But I encourage you, I challenge you to look deeper, to open up to it, and ask yourself, why not? Even if your forefathers have always done it this way, have always had it this way, and if you say, this is how I've always been, why can't you be the new? Why can't you be the change maker? Why can't you be the one that makes the difference? All right? In you, you have everything to succeed. You have no business failing. There's a success mechanism in you. All you have to do is to activate it. You know, you are God's highest form of creation. You have no business not to succeed. You see, my goal here today is to challenge you, you know, to think big, to think out of the box, to ask yourself questions, to open up your mind to explore new concepts, new ideas, and what is working for me, what is not working. Whatever is not working, dismiss it, put it aside and say, okay, how can I change? Some of these patterns that have been serving and I feel like, oh, this is me, that's not you. Nothing is defined, nothing is fixed in concrete. The self-image can be changed anytime, okay? It's garbage in, garbage out, right? Jargon in, jargon out. So if you have a self-image and you feel like, oh, this has been limiting me, this has held me back, what do? You change it. Out with the old, in with the new. It's as simple as that. Nothing has to be the same. We are evolving creatures. Constantly, it's our job to grow. Every day, there should be a new experience in your life. We're not supposed to remain stuck in the same rut. If you're not growing, then you're dying. You know, but as human beings, we're evolving. Now, for instance, if you look at a picture that you took 20 years ago, you can't be the same way physically. So how do you expect your self-image to remain the same way? You want to change. You want to find out the things that work, the limitations, the beliefs that you've held on to that have prevented you from advancing. Now we understand that the only limitation that we have is the limitations that we put on ourselves. The cybernetic, the control system, it's right in us. It's not an auntie or an uncle or a village person. It's right in us. You determine if you want to go further. You determine how far you want to go. You put the stamp and say, okay, this is the boundary. I'm not going any further. No one's going to do that for you. It's from you. It's your self-decision. It's what you give yourself. Remember I said it's your belief. When you put your belief and say, okay, this is who I am. I agree, this is who I am. So I'm saying to you today, why don't you change that, okay? Why don't you give your self-image the opportunity to expand on the inside, to explore and become everything that it's supposed to be? You know, break the chains. Say no more to limiting beliefs, no more to things that have seemed impossible. Challenge yourself to go to the next level, and you can. You have everything in you to take you there. You have everything in you to succeed. Don't be discouraged. Understand now that it's all in you. The cybernetic, the control mechanism, it's right here. And just before we conclude, because I don't want to make this very long, I just want us to do a physical demonstration. It's something that I believe that, you know, when you do physical demonstrations, it really helps. So I'm going to take the camera over here, and I hope you can see this. All right, so what is here is, I'll just remove this down a little bit. What is here is okay, just 1 minute. Sometimes it's nice to see things visually. When you see it visually, it gives you a better understanding of what is being said. So how do you get rid of a bad idea? Okay, you have a bad idea, what you do, you exchange it with a good idea. Simple. So how do you get rid of a self-image, a bad self-image that is not working. I mean, that is not helping you, it's not serving you, it's not getting you to where you need to be. You exchange it with a good self-image. So right here I have what looks like a black liquid in a glass. It is a black liquid, okay? It's a black, and it's going to represent for us the wrong self-image. The self-image that no longer serves us, that has the disempowering thoughts, the limiting beliefs, and the small ideas. What we're going to do to get rid of it, all we have to do is to exchange it. Remember, the subconscious has no filter. So it's jargon in, jargon out. So all we do, we just keep pouring in the things that we want, pouring the ideas we want, pouring the solution we want, pouring the mindset that we want, pouring the kind of behavior that we want, just pouring in the thoughts that will help us, that will advance us, that will take us to where we need to be, the things that will serve us and benefit us. Anything that doesn't know, we exchange it, we find the opposite, we inspire ourselves, we open our hearts to listen to new ideas, new concepts, new mindsets, and it just keeps going. That's the way. Just keep pouring in, pouring what you need. And you know, at a point, sometimes you might just stop and say, hey, okay, I think I'm getting there. I think, all right, I'm making progress. This is where I am. And you find out you stop, and then something happens that sets you back. And you're like, oh, what happened there? You know, don't beat yourself. Don't feel like, oh, I failed. You see, this is not an overnight process. This exchange is an ongoing process. It's a continual process. It's a daily progress. You see, growth does not end. As long as we're alive, we constantly grow. We're constantly evolving. We're becoming better and better. So you continue. You go on. You just keep pouring on what you need, the inspiration you need, the mindset you need, the ideas you need. You just keep pouring. Just go on, and you don't have anything else to do. It's exchanging. It's washing it out, washing it out, washing it out, washing it out. So there you go. And look at it. We have the image that we want. We have the self-image that we know that will advance us, will serve us, will take us to the expected destination that we want to arrive at. Finally, before I end, I just want to give you some final tips that can help you just maintain this reprogramming. I call what we just did a reprogramming. So finally, I would say what we just experienced is not easy, changing from an old self-image to a new one. But if you are considering where you're going, you know that it must be done. If you've looked at your life and you said, okay, where I am now is not going to help me. The self-image I have now is not serving me to get to where I want to go in life because I have an expectation. I see somewhere for myself. Then you know that this must be done. So whether it's easy or not, you know it must be done. The next thing is that, excuse me, it's not sudden. It's not an overnight process. Don't think, okay, today it's going to happen to my new. No. It's a gradual process. You saw how we kept pouring it in. It goes on. And understand that, you see, the third thing is that an exchange must be done. So to get rid of the old, the new must come in. Jargon in, jargon out. Jargon in, jargon out. So there must be an exchange. You see, nature abhors a vacuum. So if you get rid of it and you don't pour something else in, it's going to come right back. And the final thing I want to say is you don't stop. You don't quit. Don't quit on your ideas. Don't quit on the new self-image. Don't quit on upgrading yourself. Don't quit on raising your standards. Don't quit on changing your mindset. Don't quit on the inspiration. Don't quit on the ideas, the new ideas. You know, let your cup run over. Constantly fill yourself up with things that will empower you, the things that will inspire you. Surround yourself with things that will lift you and take you to where you want to be. Be in the company of people who are going where you want. Don't be around people that you have no business being with. You have your eyes set on a goal. You see, the self-image is constantly taking up in. So you want to also make sure that you're in the right place. you're hearing the right things, you're listening, you're attuned to the right things so that you can attract the right things. And my friend, as you continue this journey to improve yourself, to add to yourself, to have the right mindset, to have the right self-image, believe me, you will amaze yourself. You will find out that not only will your career, your finances, your marriage, every aspect of your life will begin to change for the better. Because you see, a person, I'll say it again, does not go beyond the image that he has of himself. So it's all in what you aspire, okay? I encourage you to be the best, do the best, and I want to thank you for the time we've had. I trust that you will do exciting things with the information that you've been given. Thank you very much.